Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, testy. No, that's not a good one. Let's cut that out. Kurzgesagt, the day the dinosaurs died, minute by minute.
One of the greatest illusions in life is continuity.
4 seconds into the video, but I have to pause to say this. That is absolutely true. We get so entrenched in our day-to-day patterns, in our schedules, in our routines, and we just kind of assume that life will continue on. The sun will rise tomorrow. We will have electricity. We'll still have a job. Our loved ones will still be here. We assume that continuity because that's generally what we experience. But that continuity is not guaranteed. The world, existence, could change very drastically in the blink of an eye. And you got to remember that. Live your life as if everything could change tomorrow, because everything might.
66 million years ago, the continuity of the dinosaurs had been going on for around 165 million years already.
165 million years? Modern humans are only about 200,000 years old. They've been around a lot longer than we have. Holy wow.
And it didn't seem this would change anytime soon. The world was warm and pleasant, and most of the land was covered with lush forests and an incredible diversity of trees, flowers, ferns, and trillions of critters. Dinosaurs were ubiquitous and had diversified into hundreds of species of all shapes and sizes. Titanosaurs, large, gentle giants, shared the world with famous beasts like Tyrannosaurus rex or Edmontosaurus. Pectinodon hunted in the undergrowth, while Edmontosaurus wandered coastlines and swamps.
There was a lot of different dinosaurs, and they spanned such a huge, immense amount of time. 1.6 million years is absolutely ridiculous.
An ancient paradise, a world of plenty, full of life. 66 million years ago, maybe on a Tuesday afternoon, life was the same as it had been the day before, or 1,000 years before, or pretty much 1,000,000 years before. Things were good for our feathered dinosaur buddies, until a tiny, tiny detail in the sky changed.
Think about it from the dinosaurs' perspective. They know nothing's wrong. We, at least today, as modern humans with our technology and with our, honestly, just bigger brains, we would see that happening today with what we know of space. And it would worry us. We would at least know something's coming. Not that we could probably do anything about it. I mean, maybe there's a chance. I know that NASA's played around with the DART missions, with redirecting asteroids, but by the time we can see it with the naked eye, it's probably too late, I'm going to guess. Because the DART missions rely on very teeny tiny trajectory changes over vast distances. And if we can see it with our naked eye, it's pretty close, especially at the rate that these things travel. So they would have no idea what was coming. You know, there would be no sense of impending doom whatsoever, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time. Dun, dun, dun.
If there were dinosaurs watching the stars, one night they may have noticed the appearance of a new star, a tiny dot that for many weeks slowly became bigger and brighter. Until one fateful day, it looked like another small moon in the night sky. And then it faded from sight as it dipped into Earth's shadow. For a few more hours, the illusion of continuity was upheld.
Can you imagine something like that happening, where we can clearly see something's wrong? We can see it as like a second small moon, know it's headed our way, but not be able to do anything about it. That is terrifying right there.
Until it was not anymore. In the morning, the object suddenly appears again. Now, almost as large as the sun in the sky and growing every moment, heading for the coast near the Yucatan Peninsula. It takes the asteroid only seconds to pass through the thin layer between space and the ground to make contact, as it enters the atmosphere at almost 60 times the speed of sound. Let's stop time. Here, we see the unnamed asteroid about to commit speciescide.
Two things. First thing, we haven't named this thing yet. I guess we don't know for sure that this happened, and for sure that that was the cause of the extinction. But a lot of people are very, very confident that that's exactly what happened. How have we not named this? And the second thing, it's very rare that I'm going to do this, but I think that there's an issue with what they're showing on the screen right now. If there was actually an asteroid that close to the ground, havoc would already have been wrecked. The temperatures, the pressure, it would not be a sunny day if you were this close enough to it right now. Everything would not be honky-dory for a few more seconds. You would already be feeling the horrible negative effects of that asteroid being right there.
Larger than Mount Everest, it reaches from the ocean high into the atmosphere, higher than passenger planes would fly millions of years later.
On the surface, it's higher than passenger planes. So if you've ever flown, picture that for a second, okay? Looking out your window at the peak of your flight and how far the ground was below you. An asteroid that's taller than that. Yikes.
At this moment, the world was one way. In a fraction of a second, it would be fundamentally different. Let's make the transition. As the asteroid hits the shallow ocean and the bedrock below, the energy of billions of nuclear weapons is released all at once as the asteroid vaporizes. A flash of light illuminates the sky as an eerie bright white sphere grows over the Gulf of Mexico. Bedrock melts into seething hot plasma at tens of thousands of degrees Celsius.
Wow.
The thermal radiation from the explosion travels at the speed of light and immediately burns everything within a radius of about 1,500 kilometers, while the energy from the impact pushes so hard against Earth's crust that it loses all strength and flows away from the impact site like a liquid.
The crust of the Earth flows away from the site like liquid. That's how much energy we're talking about.
Creating a hole 25 kilometers deep and 100 kilometers wide. The ocean is pushed back for hundreds of kilometers, like when a kid jumps into a puddle.
Ha!
As the crust bounces back, melted and flowing crust forms a temporary mountain stretching 10 kilometers into the sky.
That's gotta be the absolute worst earthquakes globally that could ever possibly happen. But can you imagine the earthquakes even on the complete other side of the planet? There is nowhere safe from this. This is ridiculous.
An incredible amount of material is blasted into the higher atmosphere or even out into space, as much as 60 times the original mass of the asteroid.
So the asteroid hitting was really bad and caused extinction level events for a lot of species, right? Pretty much all large life on the planet. Not all of it, but a lot of it, right? When the moon was formed, the leading theory is that a protoplanet encountered Earth and crashed into Earth. Now, that would have been much worse. And the thought that had quickly went through my mind was there life prior to that? But then I remembered, as I was talking here, yay, live reactions, that likely happened when the Earth was still molten. So there was certainly no life prior to that happening.
The violence of the strike is felt everywhere on Earth within minutes. A magnitude 11 earthquake may be the most powerful quake any living thing has ever witnessed in billions of years. It is so insanely strong that in India it might have...
This study is a bit controversial. Some scientists think that these volcanic activities have nothing to do with the asteroid and may have been an additional event making things even harder for the dinosaurs.
Of years. It is so insanely strong that in India it might have shaken gigantic lava fields and causes volcanic eruptions that would last for 30,000 years and cover half of the Indian subcontinent with lava.
30,000 years of lava eruptions? Wow! Think about this for a second. You're walking around eating your grass or whatever dinosaurs did back in the day, enjoying the sunlight, everything's fine, everything's hunky-dory. That's still an expression, right? Whatever. Everything's great. And you blink your eyes, and if you're one of the ones lucky enough not to be killed immediately, you open your eyes again after this blink that lasts a fraction of a second, and the world is different. There's now rivers and lakes of lava. The ground is shifted. I'm assuming that this will raise the temperature of the planet. And then my prediction here is the friction of the asteroid hitting the Earth and ejecting all of the mass and material into the atmosphere, which a lot of it did escape, but some of it stayed. Some of it came back down and rained back through the atmosphere again. That friction generates heat, and we're talking about it on such large scales that my prediction is the Earth basically turns into a giant oven and is going to bake all of the large life, basically almost anything except for underwater life, alive. And from the dust of everything, because this is also going to cause global fires, right? There was trees in this area, lots of foliage to burn. The ash and soot from that, as well as the dust from the impact, is basically going to cover the Earth, and it's going to block out the sun. It's going to basically create a blanket that's going to reflect the heat back into space from the sun, and we're going to see a huge ice age. That's my prediction.
Even on the side of Earth opposite the impact, the ground still moved by several meters. Nobody would sleep through this day. The gigantic explosion crashes against the atmosphere with unprecedented violence and causes a shockwave that reaches speeds of more than 1,000 kilometers per hour near the site of impact, similar to the hyperhurricanes on gas giants like Neptune. In Middle America, basically any soil, vegetation, or animal is just shredded into pieces and catapulted thousands of kilometers away. Now, the previously displaced oceans return. As the temporary mountain at the site of impact collapses, a ring of tsunamis as high as 1 kilometer, enough to cover all skyscrapers humans would ever build, heads in all directions. As they crash into...
Those are some tall tsunamis. Wow! Imagine being on like the top of the Sears Tower or something. I don't know if you've ever visited that, or, you know, there's a lot of skyscrapers. Imagine being at the top of one of those, especially if you've actually been, and looking out and seeing the tsunami that still towers above you on the way.
To the coasts of the continents surrounding the impact, they will drown thousands of kilometers of coastline. 15 hours later, some of the waves that get refracted around South America will still tower as much as 100 meters into the sky. But we still haven't talked about the worst thing yet. A lot of the debris yeeted into space will orbit Earth for thousands of years.
I don't know why, but hearing this voice that's usually so serious and sincere say yeeted, it just cracks me up. We gotta listen to that again, because I stopped paying attention after I heard that.
A lot of the debris yeeted into space will orbit Earth for thousands of years. Some may hit the Moon or even Mars. But most of it comes right back. When things fall through the atmosphere at such speeds, they get very hot.
Called it! I got this idea from the, what was it, the detonate all nuclear bombs at once video, right? We talked about the repercussions of that if we were to take all of the nuclear bombs in the world, put them in a pile and blow them up. And then we also talked about what would happen if we mined all of the uranium on the planet and turned those into nuclear bombs and then piled those up and blew them up. And it was kind of a very similar scenario to this that we were talking about. I guess the only difference is that was radioactive and this isn't. So this is actually maybe the least destructive event of the two. That's scary to think about.
As in hundreds of degrees hot. And this happens to millions of tons of material everywhere. This rapidly heats up the atmosphere to insane temperatures. We don't know exactly how hot it got or how long this heat shock lasted, but there are two ideas here. Either the air was heated to hundreds of degrees for a few minutes, or to thousands of degrees for around 1 minute.
Either way, that would kill all big life, right? I don't think there's any like massive animals that are able to withstand hundreds of degrees Celsius for a few minutes. That's gonna cook them either way.
In any case, the air became as hot as the inside of an industrial oven. How bad the global effects of this were is contested, but if enough heat reached the surface, a lot of plants and animals would have died very quickly if they couldn't bury themselves or escape into caves. The heat, together with raining debris, also may have ignited material on forest floors and sparked wildfires.
I'm almost positive I haven't seen this video before. I'm just quoting things that we learned from previous videos we watched, so It's kind of funny that it's basically saying the exact same thing that I did.
The Earth rotated under the searing hot plume. In a few hours, massive wildfires were probably burning around the globe. Some of them may have lasted for months and turned Earth into a horrifying, hot, hellish version of itself. As the day of the impact draws to an end, many of the dinosaurs are already dead, but the worst is still to come. The gigantic plume of vaporized material reaches the upper atmosphere and spreads around the whole globe. Together with the soot from the burning planet and the aerosols generated at impact, the planet sinks into a deep darkness, with only the remaining raging fires illuminating the scenery. Whatever plants survive the firestorms will now be starved for sunlight as global photosynthesis is temporarily shut down.
So does that mean that out of all of the plants that existed back in those days, that there's none of those left? Is every tree and every piece of foliage that we see today new? Or did a couple of them manage to squeeze through and survive and repopulate?
Within days, temperatures crash as much as 25 degrees Celsius. The oceans were especially hard hit. The lack of sunlight killed over 90% of plankton, which form the basis of the food web of marine life.
Yeah, and here I was thinking that marine life would be relatively safe. No, plankton needs sunlight. And plankton, like they said, that's the base of the food chain. You kill out the plankton, you kill out just about everything above it.
Ultimately, this would kill off the large marine reptiles and ammonites that used to dominate the seas. The biosphere the survivors now find themselves in is like an alien landscape. Ash, debris, and the burned remains of the formerly lush and blooming life cover the ground. The sky is dark and it's cold, and fresh food is scarce, while fungi thrive. For months and years, the planet will be a hostile and deadly place. The sudden global winter will last for decades. At least 75% of all species on Earth will just vanish from existence.
75%? Wow. I realized that this was bad, right? The meteor that killed the dinosaurs, or the asteroid, whatever. That's of course because I was considering that marine life would be a little bit more safer than they were, forgetting that their whole food chain got disrupted. Although, we should be grateful because it opened up an opening for us. We may not exist if this event hadn't happened.
And so, as the day ends, the world is suddenly different. The continuity that went on for millions of years is no more. The era of the dinosaurs is over. Just like that.
I wonder how the age of humans will end. I know that's something that we've talked about a lot in different videos, but I wonder how it actually will end. A lot of us assume nuclear war, which is definitely a high possibility. But let's say that we actually make it past that. Let's say that we don't manage to destroy ourselves in the next few decades or whatnot, which of course means no nuclear war and means we don't kill ourselves with climate change, which are probably the two most likely things to happen. But aside from that,
eventually, from the ashes of the old world, survivors emerged. Birds that are the direct descendants of the dinosaurs and mammals that would eventually become the dominant animals on the planet. Without the asteroid, who knows what life on Earth would look like today? Without the sudden disruption of dinosaur continuity that completely changed the planet and all life on it, we might have never had the opportunity to become what we are today. It's not clear how long the human era will last. So far, modern humans have been around for 0.1% of the time the dinosaurs were.
I thought they said 1.6 million years. They said 165 million years. That is quite the difference. Wow. I misheard that. I'm so glad they put that on the screen. Whoa.
And in this short amount of time, we've achieved impressive feats, from making the world our own to reaching space and splitting the atom. Yet our future and our long-term survival are not a given. If we're not careful, it could end in an instant, like the age of the dinosaurs ended. But in contrast to them, we know that our continuity is fragile, even if it doesn't feel like it. We can be prepared and be vigilant and hopeful. If we're lucky, our journey will go on for a long, long time.
That was amazing. I loved it. I can't believe I misheard the years, though. I thought they said 1.65 million years. I didn't realize they said 165 million years. Wow, that is a long time. Now, my question is, in 165 million years, you would have thought that intelligent life would have evolved. Although that was the precursor for us, because we are still descendant from the mammals of that time. So it's not like it was a complete reset. You know, we still had that starting point to basically come from. Wow, this was insane. Hey, if you made it all the way to the end, do me a favor and go ahead, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.